I think I'm unmuted. I think so. Hi. Hello, everybody. If you can hear me, raise your hand in the, I know how to raise my hand control panel. Good. I see hands going up. That's wonderful. So I'm pasting in the chat a link. Let's just make sure that link works for everybody. Anybody having difficulty? It's a Google folder and it should work. And basically the folder is a bunch of stuff that, some of which I'm going to refer to, some of which not, that you might find as a resource. If you can't open the folder or have trouble with the folder, I will paste the link in at another time. And let's just start. There's a document that's in the folder called Working a Farm. And we're going to spend about half of our time on what I would call traditional farming methods. And then we're going to spend the other half of the time on newer, let's say, digital farming methods. But I want to start with the idea of what does an effective farm actually look like, right? And, the idea, let me just make sure that I want to cover a few things, right? So first, farming takes time. It's when I started farming in an area in Blossom Valley some years ago, in 2 weeks or so after starting to farm, I got a call and I ended up listing a house, right? Maybe 2.5 weeks. I was farming every week. And before the third one hit, somebody had called me because they were ripe, and all of a sudden I was marketing to them. But that, by the way, is not something you should count on. What you would more realistically look at is something at the minimum of 6 months to perhaps 18 months before you start getting a significant return on your farm. This is one reason why many real estate agents don't farm. And the reason is that it takes a really long time, sometimes, in order to start producing consistent results. Over the years, I've had many agents tell me, I tried farming, it doesn't work. Really? So tell me, what did you do? Well, I've sent out postcards. Great. How often? I sent out 4 postcards and no one called me. Farming doesn't work, right? Well, the idea of whether or not farming works can be proven or disproven by going to the MLS, looking for the agents who have lots of listings, mapping their listings, and looking, does it look like they're farming a geographic area? And you're going to find that for many of them, the answer is yes, that's what they're doing, right? And if you're not going to do some sort of a farm, then how are you going to get listings, right? Now, that's just some thoughts, right? So there's a lot of things here that I'm not going to go through all of this right now, but most of this is somewhat self-explanatory, right? These ideas. But what I also want to do is to go over, and I'm sorry, I'm going to be jumping around a little bit from here to there, but that I'm going to. And this is something that I put together. It's called Working Your Farm. It's a lot shorter than the other one. Let me just make it bigger. And we're going to sort of start with that. So, and then I'm going to actually go out and show you where you could get the marketing materials. And then we're going to talk about digital marketing and how to do all that, right? Now, one thing about working a farm, and we covered last week how to pick a farm, but a lot of whether or not your farm is going to be successful is going to be determined by how well you pick the farm, right? If you pick an area where you're competing against a bunch of big agents who have years of experience and market share and a budget that is greater than yours, then you're going to, that's a problem, right? And if you picked an area that was a little more open, it will make a big difference. You understand, picking the right area is important to your rate of return. You're going to be wanting something, I would say 5%, at least 6% or higher turnover rate would be good. I'm not going to go through all of the different things to look at because I did that last time, but then we come to the B word, and that's the budget. Do you have a budget? Now, if you're going to be using the $500, let me just give you an idea of what this is going to cost. Let's say you were doing postcards. Right now, I use PostNet. There's other companies that do it. I'm just saying I use PostNet. And PostNet, if I have somebody else design the postcard, right? And we'll talk about there's some options for that. And once I give PostNet the design for the postcard, they print it. I give them the spreadsheet, which I usually get from a title company that has the addresses of the people. They print it, they put the addresses on it, they put postage on it, they take it to the post office and they mail it for me. And that comes out to be, let's say, rounding up a little bit, about 50 cents a postcard. Right now, it's using third-class mail, which is 26 cents or something like that for postage. That's how they can keep it. It actually comes up like 47 cents a postcard with postage, with printing, with addressing, and taking it to the post office. So there are other companies that do this, but you ought to find one, right? Unless you are going to do it yourself. Now, let's say you're new to farming, right? And you're farming an area. In that example I gave, where after a few weeks I had gotten a call, I was farming every week, right? The company that I worked for back then, which was a serious farming office, there are still remnants of it, agents that still have very productive farms. We farmed every single week. Now, that was typically done by dropping off flyers, but it was also, I was using postcards, right? Because I was too lazy to drop off flyers and I had other things to do. So let's say you wanted to jumpstart. Now, the reason we're doing this, and I can remember one of the agents that was one of our big farming agents. I'm at a restaurant, in Blossom Valley, and the guy made some comment to me because he lived in the area about this agent, because it was obvious from what I was wearing that the two of us worked at the same company. And the guy said to me, he said, that guy is so annoying, right? That agent, right? He leaves me something every day. You understand that? Every day he drops something off at my house. Now, I happen to know it wasn't every day, it was every week. And he had been doing that for a decade or so. And so the guy was saying to me, why is he doing this? Why is he sending me something every day? Why? So I said to him, I said, name a real estate agent active in your area. And he thought for a second, and he said this guy's name. I said, name another. And I don't know. I said, that's why, right? That's why. Because that guy became top of mind awareness. Everybody that lived in that farm knew who he was. And even though they wouldn't recognize him, I'm going to talk about this if you saw him up close, because the picture he used was like an old one. By the way, the picture you use on your marketing materials ought to look like you. I'm just saying, right? It ought to look like you, right? Your high school graduation photo, even though it was a killer photo, it should look like you, whatever you're doing. So one of the ways of how do you get to top of mind? Now, the minimum of how often are you going to need to market to your farm in order to get results? Some companies that I've worked with had what they called a 12 direct, which was once a month for a year, 12 once a month for 1 year. Now, however, they would admit that if you're doing it once a month for a year, it's going to take more than a year before you get results, right? You understand that once a month, it takes a long time for you to become top of mind. So every 10 days is what I used at the beginning. Actually, at the beginning, I did it every week, right? For a month, every week. So I sent them 4 things the first time. Then I backed it off to every 10 days. The next month, I sent them 3 things. And then after a time, I was doing it twice a month. My personal belief is if you're not able to do 2 things a month, don't bother, right? Go donate the money to charity, do something else with it. So let's say you're going to kickstart your farm. So 3 pieces a month, every 10 days, you do something. And you do that for 3 months. Now remember, it's going to cost roughly 50 cents a postcard to send something out. So are you good at math, right? So if you have 200 people, 500 people in your farm, let's say 500 people, and you're sending them 3 times a month, you're basically doing $1.50 per person per month, right? So you're looking at $750 for that first month. I'm just saying. Every quarter, and by the way, at the halfway mark and at the end of the year mark, we would do a big deal about a quarterly review and how things are going, a more in-depth thing. But at some point, you're going to be down to 2 pieces a month. And what you're going to want to do is to get them all to go back. All of these pieces are sending them back to a seller homepage that converts, right? Now, what are the calls to action that you would have in a marketing piece? Old school was call me. You're thinking of selling your home in today's market, call me. I used to, by the way, have a postcard that said I would give them over the phone a instant market analysis of their property. Call me, tell me what you got. I'll tell you roughly what your home is worth, right? And people would call me. Now, I happen to know in my farm there were 4 builders. I knew what the different models were. I knew what properties were selling for dollars per square foot. You understand, if you gave me a house and you said it at 2,000 square feet, I could give you a range because I was paying attention, right? But so many times now, I think people are more likely to want to go to a website or to do something else, and we're going to talk about that. But you're going to want to, don't just send them to your company webpage, right? The webpage that your company gave you, you know, the Swiss Army knife webpage. If you're a buyer, click here. If you're a seller, click here. You know, we want it to be a little more focused, right? 2 pieces a month. You're going to want to have a seller page. By the way, when we get into the digital part of this, you ought to have at least 4 web pages, right? If you're really serious about doing internet marketing and digital marketing, one of them is your generic everything thrown in web page. But you ought to have a seller web page. You ought to have a buyer web page, right? And you ought to have a niche or a geographic area page, right? In other words, if you're farming Blossom Valley, you ought to have a Blossom Valley page. You ought to have I'm thinking of selling my home page. I'm thinking about buying a home page. And then you could have your generic page. Why would we want to have so many pages? That seems like a hassle. Part of it is because if we want Google's help, right? And we all want Google's help. We would love to have Google send people to our webpage. Wouldn't that be nice? Well, they only do that if they're sure that the web page is relevant to whatever the person is searching for. So if they're looking at your web page and you've got all this garbage on your web page, right? You've got stuff about buying and investing, and I've seen agents that put weather stuff and all sorts of other things on their web page, you know, and Google looks at your web page and they're saying, well, this really isn't a web page for somebody selling their home in Blossom Valley, right? Now, if you have another web page and the URL is, oh, by the way, I believe I still own Blossom Valley Home Values, right? As an example. I own a bunch of those, by the way. If you want one, talk to me, I'll make you a deal. But if the URL is a Blossom Valley Home Values and Google, Spider walks over your page and they see Blossom Valley and Blossom Valley and Home Values, they're like, yep, this is the right page to send people to that are interested in Blossom Valley Home Values. You understand, part of this to be effective is you're going to need to have websites that are actually good at converting people. We're going to talk more about that. We're not going to be able to cover everything today. This will just be the sketch, but at some point we'll go through exactly how to create those websites. I'll show you a little bit. Let's say you have an existing farm, right? And you're like, well, I've already got a farm. I think some people know who I am. 2 direct mail monthly. Right. And yes, I've heard, direct mail is dead. And yeah, not in real estate. Right. I still see people that are getting business as a result of an aggressive direct mail campaign. Now we have to talk about how do you create the postcards and what is the message. When you can door knock or drop off things, then we would be doing that again. Right now, under the current public health orders, you're not supposed to be knocking on doors, sticking door hangers or dropping off flyers. You're not supposed to do it. Also, you'd be doing open houses. Now, if you're saying, well, that's not going to work for me because I don't have any listings in my farm, that's why I'm in your workshop today, because I don't have any, how can I do an open house? In a normal market, I have a system where I help agents get open houses. But let's say, and I've had agents that work Communication Hill, and I would help them find an open house in Communication Hill. There are ways of doing it. Right now, you could still do an open house. I have a listing, by the way. I put it in the MLS yesterday. I'm going to show this as an example. It's fresh, let's just say. It's really fresh. And I may do an open house this Sunday, but I'm busy on Saturday. You could do a virtual open house. If you sent me an email and said, hey, Mike, I'd like to do a virtual open house on your new listing in Morgan Hill, can I do that? I would say yes, right? In fact, I just assume you did it on Sunday instead of me, but I'm open to that, right? You have to talk to me. By the way, your chances of getting that open house from me are a lot better if you're in my coaching program, or I'm just saying it's a lot better, right? Because the people that are in my coaching program, I'm going to do this first. Do you think in your geographic area, assuming you've picked out one, that you can find listings? Now, I understand the market is crazy and things are going fast and but not all of them. I've just talked to a client. We've been making offers and counter offers. This is Santa Clara County, offers and counter offers. I'm not kidding. For a $1.6 million property, it's in sort of the sweet spot. My buyer doesn't seem to be in any hurry and the seller doesn't seem to be all that nervous. We're like $20,000 off. We're still negotiating, right? So I know that they're not all sold in the first 10 days. So let's say you found an agent that has a listing in your farm and it's vacant. This makes it a whole lot easier. And you contacted that agent and said, do you mind if I did a virtual open house on your listing? Would you like that? You might get a yes, right? Because the seller would like it probably, and it's a way of promoting it, right? And I'm going to be doing one on Sunday, and I would put it in the MLS as an open house and everything else. We're in a rush to do this. Not everything is ready, and normally I wouldn't be doing this quickly, but today and tomorrow and the next day and the next day are not lucky days. I'm not kidding. The Wednesday was a lucky day. Today is not a lucky day. So we put it in the MLS on a lucky day, right? If you want to know why I've listed this home and I don't have all the reports up and everything else, that's why, right? Now, if you're farming an area, you might want to consider, I know this is heresy, but you might want to consider whether or not you want to purchase leads from Zillow, Realtor.com, or Trulia for that area so that you can get people that are interested in buying homes in that area, which gives you the ability to show homes in that area. And it's going to be easier for you to get a listing, right? Because The process is, you pick a farm and then you work the farm, but we're going to have to cover some more topics like what do you do when they call and they say, all right, I'm interested in talking to you, right? Because there's nothing more discouraging than spending all the money and time and effort to farm for 6 months and then lose your first 2 or 3 listing appointments, right, to somebody else, right? So if you've actually sold homes in that area, it, trust me, is easier to get somebody to list their home with you, right? It's easier, right? Because you're gonna, and first of all, you will sound different because you would have seen some of the properties that are for sale, right? And which puts you ahead of most real estate agents. By the way, related to farm selection, right? Now, I covered last week how to pick a farm, but many agents have become successful by letting the farm pick them. What I mean is, let's say you sell 2 homes in Cambrian. You may not like Cambrian. You may not live near Cambrian. It might not meet some of the other requirements, but if you're looking at it and the turnover is okay and the competition isn't too bad, you might want to think of farming it. One of the questions, by the way, that a potential seller is going to ask you is, how many homes have you sold in our neighborhood? How many? How many have you sold? And when you say, hey, this will be my first one, right? They might say, no, it won't, right? This isn't going to be your first one. But if you've sold buyers' homes, you can say, oh, I sold the home over there and I sold the home over there. And, and they're like, okay, the guy is actually active in our area, right? You understand it would be helpful if you were active in the area. For door knocking, how can we not door knock the door? But I received recent email from SCORE with the update of what we can do and cannot do. Leaving flowers are allowed, just no door knocking. So yes, thank you for sharing that. However, I listened to Gov Hutchinson, who is in charge of the California Association of Realtors legal department hotline and other things. And although he said that, yes, it's difficult, right? When you look at the rules as to the rules do not explicitly say you cannot drop off flyers at a house. The rules do not say that. But they do say that if you have a listing, you can't leave flyers at the house. So if you can't leave flyers at the house, how can you drop off flyers at the house? And by the way, whether or not the Board of Realtors cares or not, I want to share this with you. The Department of Real Estate has proclaimed that their interpretation of the current health rules include you can't drop off flyers. I'm just saying the Department of Real Estate has said that. So although the Board of Realtors may have given you permission to start dropping off flyers, and by the way, I don't care, go ahead and do it. I'm just saying that if somebody complained to the Department of Real Estate, you might have a problem, right? That's the downside. And by the way, if you Google search for Gov Hutchins, and he's coming up, he talked today at a different board. I saw him last week at a different board. He's going to be talking at the Santa Clara County Association of Realtors. They want $15, right, for you to listen to him explain the legal update. If you Google search, by the way, the title of his legal update, and you look for something in YouTube in the last 30 days, you're going to find recordings of his presentation, which I've already listened to. And in it, he makes a big deal about the Department of Real Estate has decided that they want to enforce shelter-in-place rules. Why does the Department of Real Estate care? And by the way, when we get into actual marketing pieces, one of the things you need to be careful of is that you're in full compliance with the Department of Real Estate rules regarding how you brand yourself and brand your broker. And the reason both of these are big issues now is the Department of Real Estate has realized, because of some new legislation, they now have the right to fine real estate agents up to $2,500. So what they're doing, some of their people, by the way, are coming, they bring rulers with them to measure on your open house signs and your for sale signs, and if your marketing material, if your personal logo is bigger than your broker's logo. They actually put a ruler to see whether or not your logo is too big and if you're not in compliance. And if you're not in compliance, they fine you close to $2,500. Why is the Department of Real Estate doing this? They want the money, right? So I would just be, if the Board of Realtors, ask them if the Department of Real Estate files a complaint against me, if they'll come and testify on my behalf. But I don't really care. Drop off flyers, right? Just hopefully nobody calls the Department of Real Estate. Zillow has Make Me Move, right? Give me the moves. You might want to look and see if anybody in your geographic area is doing that. You might want to look at all the expired listings in the area and contact them. Why not? Most of the expired listings and for sale by owners that I worked were in my farm. It is a lot easier to work a for sale by owner or an expired if they've heard of you before. The biggest complaint that expired listings have, the biggest objection when you call them is they say, well, did you ever show my house when it was on the market? No. Why not? Well, I don't show homes. You know, there isn't a really good answer to that other than you don't have a buyer. You know, so, and they've never heard of you before until their listing expired. But if they're in your farm area and the listing expires and they've been hearing from you, they're much more likely. Community functions, you know, that's sort of an old school thing where you want to participate, right? Right now, we're not meeting people in person as much, but hopefully that's going to change. There are online forums, online functions, online groups. You can get help with this. There's geographicfarm.com, Fiverr, there's Corfax. I could just keep, there's Corfax, I think it's that. There's Postcard Mania, there's Prospect Plus. There's 1,000 different places that have turnkey systems for farming. All right, so I'm not going to go through, most of this is pretty much self-explanatory. I'm going to go through ways of marketing to the people in your farm, and then we're going to spend the rest of our time probably looking at digital systems that you could use for a geographic area. Right? So let's say you picked out an area. One option, my preferred method is, once I have a geographic area, to talk to the title company, and I would tell the title company that I wanted everybody in that area that has owned a house for more than 5 years, and I want absentee owners and the future homeowners and the owner occupieds in 3 separate lists, because the message to an owner occupied is different than the message to the absentee owner who's renting out the house. It's a different message, right? And we want to farm the people that don't live there, right? But that's a different system, right? That's probably not part of our bulk emails, our bulk mail system. And then the title company gives me that list. Now, by the way, the title company will also give you for free, if you have the right title company, what they consider the likely to sell list. How does a title company come up with a likely to sell list? It's easy. They figure out the median number of years that people own a house in that geographic area when they sell it. What is that median number? They add one and subtract one, so they give you a 3-year range. If you wanted to spread that out, you could say, well, I want whatever that median is a couple of years after and a couple of years before. You understand when you're doing postcards, you have the ability to focus on the people that are most likely to be selling their house, right? Most likely. You can focus on them and also customize the message, right? 47 cents to 50 cents per postcard. And we're talking about a half of an 8.5 by 11, not the little postcards, right? This is a half of an 8.5 by 11. By the way, a jumbo postcard, which is actually even bigger, it would sound like it, bigger than, bigger. I know that 8.5 by 11 cut in half is oftentimes referred to as a jumbo postcard, but PostNet has a bigger than that postcard, and it's only a few cents each, right? The postage is the biggest expense in doing any kind of direct mail, the postage. So you can actually have an oversized postcard. You can do all sorts of fancy things, but rather than spending a lot of money, I've gotten things at my house where you would open it up and like a little building would pop up, you know, one of those little pop-up things, you know. The guy, you know, he looked like an expensive, like several dollars probably to send that to me. I never heard from him before that. I never heard from him again, right? I guess he thought if he just spent all this money on a expensive marketing piece, people would call him. That's not been my experience. Consistency and persistency. So postcards targeted to people that are likely to sell. Another way of doing this is called something, it's called EDDM. And EDDM stands for Every Door Direct Mail. And this is another way of delivering the message, right? Because we find the farm, now we have to deliver the message. Right? We'll talk a little more about messaging, but you know, I've gone through a simple list. So let's just say I wanted to do this in 95123, right? Why not? So I'm gonna look for 95123, and it's going to eventually find it. See all these little lines? Those are carrier, right now that looks like zip codes. So let me find 95123, let me do that, 136, so 95123 is over here. Here's 95123. Now, what's going to happen as I zoom in, notice it looks like a bunch of, you know, wormholes, I don't know. And watch what happens when I move the mouse over those fields. See how they start to turn purple. Now, notice sometimes it looks like a weird configuration, like a gerrymandered congressional district or something like that. They look, some of them look weird, but let's say that I wanted to farm a given area. So one of the areas that I used to farm was this area here, right? That's Blossom Avenue down to Santa Teresa, that's Snell. So notice when I highlight it, that area there, and by the way, there's two different builders I happen to know in that area. On the north side are what are called Sterling Parks. On the south side are Garcia's. Those are the names of the builder. But when I highlight that, you're going, I'll click on it. Notice what it does is it shows me one route, and there's 477. Now, what I want is, I only want residential. Right, and I happen to know there isn't any businesses there, but you might want to just pick residential. So that's telling me that in that carrier route, there's 472 addresses. And according to the United States Postal Service, if you use Every Door Direct Mail, it's going to cost you $90. So I think that comes out to be about 19 cents. Here, let me do this. Go away. All right, go away. All right. So if we are looking at $90 and we're multiplying it by 472, it's 11 cents. Right? Is that right? $90 divided by 472, 19 cents. That makes me feel better because it's anyhow. 19 cents for the postage. Now, first class bulk is going to be 23 to 26 cents. I'd have to look at one of my invoices to figure that out, which is, well, more than 19. So in terms of what is the cheapest way for me to deliver something with postage, Every Door Direct Mail. Now, what you need to do, by the way, and if you Google search EDDM postcard service, and by the way, the people who do my postcards would do this too, right? You find a company that knows how to do it, and they'll print them and they'll take them to the post office and they'll do all that for you. The thing about the EDDM postcards is that they can be of irregular size. You can have 8.5 by 11. You can have big things that are going through the mail through EDDM. And it's a two-sided document, like a great big postcard. And one way to reduce your expense is that if you were to partner, right, this is just because I know you guys might be thrifty, to partner with a loan agent or somebody else that might be wanting to market to that same area. What I was doing back in those days, right here is Blossom Hill Road, and then that's Blossom Avenue right down here. And then over here, there's some other businesses and things like that. So what I did is I went to all of the businesses that were on that strip, and there's a bunch of them down on Calero, and there's some on Santa Teresa. And I had a map of that area, and I would show it to the people. And I didn't care if it was a restaurant, there was a tire store, a pizza place, I didn't care. And I would ask them if they were interested in marketing to that area. And they all said, well, yeah, because it's like right behind our store. And then I was getting them to pay for the back, right? Now you understand, if I could cut the $90 to $45, right? And I'm still sending it out. I would rather have the consistency and split it with somebody than inconsistency, but it's all about me. I'm just saying. Now, as you go around, now notice you have to use the carrier route to do this. So let's say we were to add that one, it's added both of them. So that one is 439, right? Does everyone see how easy this is? Now, the downside to EDDM is that every place in that carrier route, every residential place gets the postcard. Doesn't matter if the owner lives there or not, right? So that means that a certain percentage of your postcards, what's the absentee owner rate in your farm? The tenants are going to be getting, or whoever's living there, postcards about selling the home, and they're not going to sell the home. All right. So let's talk about something else. All right, I'm for some reason this doesn't seem to have as much time as I always seem to have less time than I want. One of the other systems that I use is called listings to leads, and they've timed me out. And by the way, in the material I gave you, and just so you guys don't forget it, I'm going to chat. I'm going to give you that link too. That's an affiliate link. If you choose, you get a 14-day free trial. If you choose to sign up with Listings to Leads after that trial, I'm going to make $6, right? Just thought I would share that with you. I see tenants may call to buy a house. I know people who did that. Yes, I do understand the logic of that tenants may buy a house. Would it be more effective to send the tenant a postcard or a marketing piece about how to buy a house in today's real estate market, rather than sending them a postcard that says, hey, the market is hot. You're going to get more money for your home than you've ever dreamed. Name your price, call me, we'll get it for you. Now, you understand that's sort of the messaging we use when we're talking to sellers. But when we're talking to buyers, the messaging is very different. So yes, is it possible to have a buyer one on the, I understand, yes, but it's more effective if your message is targeted specifically to the people that are likely to be receiving it. All right. So listings to leads, right? What are we, why? And I'm not saying that, I'm not saying this is the best system in the world. I'm not saying it's, I don't know. It's what I use. And so the goal now is, how are we going to communicate to people that doesn't involve postcards, right? Direct mail. How are we going to do this on social media? Now, one of the things that I would also just recommend, and I put in a Fiverr link, and I did some other, some other websites, is that when you're doing the postcards, that your material looks professional, and the quality of it might need to match the type of people you're marketing to, right? In other words, if it's an upscale area, you better have upscale marketing pieces. I'm just saying, right? So I don't know why I felt like saying that, but I felt like saying that. So listings to leads is a system by which we can produce digital marketing very easily. And I'm going to show you how to do it, whether you have a listing or not. I just put this one in. Spring Hill Drive in Morgan Hill, 1.5. What a steal. That's all I can say. It's an active listing, listed yesterday. It gives me a list of tasks, right? And if I click on this list and I go through it, I can actually print this out, which is a marketing and lead generation checklist. I've already done some of the posts. I shared it with the seller, right? So I'll give you an example. So this is the landing page that was automatically generated for the listing. This is a single property website. Let me see if it works. There we go. That was automatically generated for the listing. This is a Matterport tour right on the front of the website. If you wanted to see what does this single property web, by the way, this program is about $40 a month, a little bit less. So there's the 3D tour. I'm expecting you guys to bring offers, but you can see that looks, you know, kind of cool. And notice how it quickly wants me to log in, right? The reason for doing that is we want to capture leads, right? And so this is called a lead magnet, right? If somebody wants to see the whole virtual tour, they're going to have to, and they can just continue with Facebook. Now, considering that I'm running the ads on Facebook, that shouldn't be too difficult for somebody, right? Now, if I wanted to share on Facebook, right, which is the easiest way for me to do it, I may have already done this, but I'm sure the seller wouldn't mind if I do it again. So it's going to pop up, share to newsfeed or story. I can share it to a page I manage. I could share it in a group. I could share it on a friend's timeline. Let's say page I manage. And I know this looks just bizarre, but I've got a few pages, a few pages of either mine or other people that I help with. So how about that one? That's my real estate page. And I click on post to Facebook. I have just posted to Facebook. Now, what I can now do is I can go into Facebook. I can find that post, which is on a business page. I can boost the post or not, right? If I want to get more people, I would boost the post. So other things that we can do is, people are pounding at the door. So also notice there's a seller social media. So what I did, Dear Sally Seller, it actually puts in the person's name, I guess. I hope so. She didn't complain, and believe me, she would. I went ahead and filled this out, and once I was done, I clicked on send, and it sent to it fills in the right name. So it sent the seller social media posts that they can do. It also produces a social media share image, right? Which is something I'm going to mark this as done because I don't know, I feel like it. And it also gives me, I can change the color, the background color if I want, if I like blue, right? I could do, anyhow, I generally don't mess with that too much. And I've created a share image. So, okay, Mike, that's nice, but you've got a listing, right? I don't have a listing. So what, I don't have a listing. So what am I going to do? Well, one of the things that you can do with listings to leads is, let me go over here. First of all, you can see there's a whole bunch of listings that I have. So I've set this up where this is called Farm Dominator. That's what it's called. Landing pages, bots, dashboard. Let's see if I can find it. The one, Facebook advertising, open house, lead generation, listing presentation. Why don't I just do this one? We're going to go over here to ads. All right. I'm going to run an ad. All right. So let's say you do not have a listing. Using what they have, it's called Farm Dominator. You tell listings to leads, what's your farm, right? What is the zip code? What's the area? And what it'll do is automatically download the listings that are on the MLS. They look at things that are on Trulia. For some reason, that's just the thing they do. And they download those listings into listings to leads. So for example, whereas the first one was mine, that one, not mine, but Sterling Lane, not mine, right? That's not mine. But I could, that one doesn't look like bad. I like that price. But what I could do is I can market that, right? I could, through social media posts and ads, I could market it. So what that's going to do, if I market that, is it's going to be promoting another agent's listing. Now you might be thinking, oh my God, he's trying to get me into trouble. You know, the Board of Realtors is going to come and arrest me. Well, there's two different ways of doing this. One way is, if you're worried about that kind of stuff, you send an email to the listing agent and you say, hey, I see you have this listing in the Morgan Hill on Sterling Lane. It looks great. I would love to help you sell it. With your permission, can I market the property to prospective buyers? Right now, there aren't that many listing agents that are going to tell you no, right? So by the way, my Farm Dominator is set up for Morgan Hill. So every time there's a listing in Morgan Hill, every time there's a listing, it gets downloaded into my Farm Dominator, and it's automatically posted on my Facebook business page. All of them, right? They're just all there. Now, all that does is put them on my business page, which doesn't necessarily, it doesn't mean anybody's going to look at it. So what I do is I would go in and boost the post to a different group of people, right? Depending on who I wanted to boost it to, right? So I'll explain what I mean by that. If I'm looking for buyers, then I would tend to pick a listing that sounds too good to be true. That's why the 819,000 one, you know, caught my attention, because up in San Jose and Saratoga and in Mountain View and in Santa Clara, that's going to sound too good to be true. Right. And so what I would do is, although I would post that listing and it's a Morgan Hill listing, I would boost it up in that area where I'm looking to get buyers from. Now, is there a way of looking to get buyers that would also get sellers? The answer is yes, if you boosted a more expensive listing, right? You understand, a 800,000 might be a first-time home buyer, but a 1.6 is probably maybe not. Right. So if I have the right price point for a listing, I'm going to generate people that not only want to buy it, but they may want to sell their home too. That's two transactions. Right. Now I have spoken. So first of all, you could contact the listing agent and say, hey, do you mind if I promote your listing for buyers? They'll probably say yes. Why not? Right. Why not? Or you could just do it. And by just doing it, there are, well, I'll show you, right? I'll just do this. So when we go to, let me go back. And by the way, I could pick a listing to do. So if I click on this one and I click on edit, let's just see if this is going to let me do it. That's not the one I wanted to do. Let me go back. Okay, back. We'll stick with this one here. All right, I don't want to do that one. I want to do, all right. Now, one of the reasons I don't have as many, well, I'll just do this just for fun. So this is showing me the listing. I can I don't know. I'm just going to show you how to, I'm going to just run my ad. I'm going to run out of time. Let's go to a listing. So step one is you could set it up for Farm Dominator. It downloads everybody in that zip code or area, all the listings. You can pick them and you could use those listings to create a social media presence. So for example, if I were going to do this one, I'm going to do this simply. We're going to go to ads over here. And by the way, it would take me 3 or 4 sessions to completely explain how this program works. If enough people that I'm coaching and working with are interested, so somebody is asking me about the ad on your page must mention the listing agent information. Does it do that in listings to leads? The answer is yes and no. All right, so listings to leads has the ability to create 2 different kinds of ads. One includes what's called an IDX compatible ad, and under the IDX, which stands for the Internet Data Exchange, you're required to say the name of the listing office and the name of the listing agent, so it'll stick them on there. It also has the ability to run what's called a stealth ad, and the stealth ad, you couldn't find my connection to that ad. You can't find my connection to that ad. It's just there, right? I have spoken to the head of compliance with our MLS about this subject. This has come up before, and asked him, you know, is this a deal, right? A big deal. And he said that virtually no one has ever complained that another agent was advertising their listing, that this is just not a complaint they get, and that the worst they would do is tell you to stop. But if this bothers you, send the listing agent an email and ask for their permission. Right now, if you get their permission and you're doing a listing, you would click on the one that basically says it's your listing, because it means it doesn't make it a stealth ad and it doesn't put in the other agent's information. If you've been given permission from the listing agent to market their listing, you can do this without getting in trouble, right? Without getting into trouble. If they, and I, you know, the actual regulation says you need the permission of the broker. That's what it says. So I asked the head of compliance with our MLS, does that actually mean I need to get the broker to sign something? And he said, nah, the listing agent is the agent of the broker. Like, the listing agent says it's okay, it's okay. You know, now, by the way, he also said that the worst they would ever do if they caught you is send you an email and tell you, stop advertising this guy's listing, stop advertising her listing, right? And then, you know, that would be it. But I'm not that queasy, right, for whatever. So let's create a listing ad. Here's Spring Hill Drive. I could either be using Facebook's own pre-populated forms. Facebook, sometimes you get a better return sometimes. I could look at any one of these listings, right? You understand, I could be doing this for anyone, but this one is mine, so I might as well. I also could be pushing people to my own landing page. I'm just going to click on Create Ad. Now, I've already hooked my Facebook account, advertising account, to this. All of them go in the housing and special ad category. And even though, just as a warning, even though listings to leads is going to connect originally through your personal Facebook account, they do not post to personal Facebook accounts. They only post to community pages and business pages. That's the only thing their program will automatically post for or post on. I've actually only have one set up. However, as you saw, I have a bunch that I could set up, but I'm only doing one. And notice it has some text here. It's got hashtags. I don't ever add another picture, but I could. It's got a headline. It's got a description. It goes to the party website. It's got learn more. It's got its own form. Now it comes to location. Everyone in this location, people who live in this location, people recently in the location, people traveling to the location. what would be my location? Well, if I type in Morgan Hill, come on, how about this, 95037, and with a radius of, it wants 15 miles. Let's see if it can find it. We could do interests. If I were looking for a buyer, if this was a buyer lead, I would be putting in Zillow, Redfin, and Realtor.com as interests, which means that people that have downloaded those apps and are using them and have told Facebook would be the ones that would see it. I'm not doing that. It's going to do automatic placement. I'm not going to put in a tracking pixel. Lifetime budget, $35. So let's just stop for a second. It's going to cost you about 50 cents per postcard to send something out. And if you're doing it 3 times a month, you know, it's $1.50. And at some point you're going to need like at least 1,000 homes. At some point your farm is going to be at least 1,000 homes, right? You're not going to, the numbers are not that good for 250 to 5, my opinion, right? You're going to need to get it bigger. Can you sustain $1,500 a month in marketing, right? I don't know. But notice here, I could do $50. I could do $100. I could set a budget. We're just going to do 35. There's a start and a end, right? So it's going to end on, and I could change that if I wanted to. If I were being more strategic, I might start after the election and go, because people might be paying more attention, but who knows? But I could modify this. By the way, if you tell Facebook you're willing to spend $35, they're going to spend your $35. So even if you only give them a couple of days, even if you say, I only want this out for 1 day, Facebook is going to post it and post it and post it and post it and post it until there's enough clicks for you to have spent $35. So this is what the ad is going to look like for sale in Morgan Hill, right? This is what it's going to look like. Get the current price, photos, details, and more. When they click on the learn more, they're going to go to that web page. I click on publish, and location is required. Oh, that's interesting. There we go. Morgan Hill, California. All right. I knew it, that didn't look like it was happening. All right, now we're going to go on publish. And I've just run an ad. All right, I've just run an ad. It just occurred to me that I could do like 5 more of these before I ran out of stuff. Let's just quickly look at landing pages for a second, because we're talking about farming. If you Google search Facebook, oops, yeah, thank you for telling me that. Facebook custom audience, Facebook custom audiences. The title company can help you with this, but where I'm going with this is that you've got a farm, you've identified, because the title company told you with the median, let's say you're going with the focused, this is the median year at which people sell their home. We've added a year or 2 years on each side. We now have a targeted group of people that we think are more likely to be selling their home, rather than mailing it to everybody, rather than sending it to renters with the hope they're going to buy a home. We're going to just focus on the people that we know are living there and have owned it long enough and that we think are the spot, right? That's what we're going to do. Now, once we've identified that list and the title company is emailed to us, we can go to Facebook and create an ad and upload that list, so that now we're running ads that only the people that were on that list see. Now, the ad I just ran is Morgan Hill in 15 miles. Well, there's obviously people that are going to be seeing the ad that are not in Morgan Hill. They're not in my farm, right? They're not there, right? Because of the 15 miles. But if I uploaded a custom audience to Facebook, and by the way, I can't use this quick and easy system. That's another class. Facebook ads are different than boosting things. If I go to Facebook advertising, I can now design a marketing campaign that has essentially some of the same content I would have been doing with postcards, only now it's pay-per-click advertising on Facebook. What kinds of things do we have? Well, how about this one? Let's just take a look. So this is another listings to leads. What's your Morgan Hill, California home worth now? And obviously I customized the background. That's, for those of you not familiar with Morgan Hill, that's not the hill referred to in Morgan Hill. That's actually a person's name. That's called El Toro, and it's an iconic hill in Morgan Hill. If you're in Morgan Hill, you certainly know what that looks like. I could have picked the downtown. I could have picked a neighborhood. When I'm doing things in Gilroy, garlic usually would appear someplace. You understand? So when somebody sees this in Facebook, right, and I'm targeting who I'm sending it to, and they put in their address, they have to go through a couple of steps, but they get a instant valuation, right? And how the turn, I've done this a lot, right? A group of us were doing this. We had over 1,000 people fill out this form, right? So a little while using a different system, but the form looked almost identical. And some of those people did list their home, but a lot of them were just curious. You know, has my home gone up? Has the home gone down? So if we're doing a custom audience and we identify the people that we're targeting, right, because they just didn't buy it and you know, they've owned it long enough, and those people start putting in their address, we've really got something, right? We've got somebody that we know is in the sweet spot to sell their home that's actually looking for their home values. There's a bunch of free reports you could do, but if I want to add a landing page, nearby sold homes is a different page. I can create custom pages for sellers, custom reports for sellers. At some point, what we want, free in value increase report, growing empty nesters, expired listings for sale by owners. Some of these are not mobile responsive. I usually stick to the ones up here. You get the idea. There's a lot of stuff. Now, I'm going to, if there's demand for this, and I assume from today's class there would be, is the, because we don't have time to go through what kind of YouTube videos would you want to put, what kind of Instagram posts would you want to do. I've covered some of the most obvious kind of Facebook marketing and that sort of thing. But what we're looking for when we're running ads is what's called a lead magnet. And a lead magnet is some message that gets the other person to tell us who they are. And that's either because we're giving them an instant valuation of their home, or we're giving them a free report on what kinds of remodels pay off when you sell your home and which ones you should avoid. We understand when they fill that out and we get their email address, now we start building an email database for our farm. And yes, it's possible to buy phone numbers and email addresses. They're not very good. I've actually paid to have professional, they call it skip tracers. And a skip tracing company or website, they're looking for people that have skipped town to hunt them down. That's really where this comes from. And they'll find phone numbers and email addresses, and most of the email addresses don't work, right? And the phone numbers are a little bit better, but you understand, once you've identified the focus group of your farm, you're going to want phone numbers, you're going to want email addresses, you're going to want to market to them on Facebook. You would be looking them up. Are they on LinkedIn? You know, where else are they? Because communicating them through digital media is less expensive than communicating through postcards. What would a perfect farm system look like? You send them postcards. You're on Facebook. You create a Facebook group. Do I have time to do this? Let me, are people bolting yet? Not too many. Let me give you an example, and then we'll call it a day. I'll give you an example, but, and I probably did this last time, I don't know, but I probably did. An example of a community page used in farming. That's Holly Barr. Hi, Holly. She's with Sereno now. You know, it's always a now, usually with people. Willow Glen Charm. And what I want to call to your attention is, look at this number down here, 79,358 people follow this. That's not too bad, right? And if we look at how many people like it, it's like 80,000. So she has about 80,000 followers. And this is not a business page. Notice this is a community page. So what, and this, by the way, is in those documents. It talks about how to do it. If you Google search, how do I create a Facebook community page, you'll be deluged with stuff. But let's take a look at what Holly's doing. Families have an option to continue distance learning, all right? Okay, people have reacted. She had 37 likes, 52 comments, and 5 shares. Not bad. Notorious RGB poster contest. She posted that. Willow Glen Charm, the shelter needs newspaper and clean blankets and towels too, right? So Holly goes around this from the San Jose Animal Care Center, took a picture, posted it on Facebook. She got 23 likes, 11 comments, and 29 shares. Here is like free food, Wendy's chicken Sammy. And they're giving away for 2 weeks. Chicken sandwich, that's good to know. I have to find a Wendy's. Here's another one about it looks like magic and starts December 1st. It's the Enchanted Forest of Lights. Here's another one about full moon on Halloween. I hope you notice the lack of real estate posts. You notice that? So if you have a business page, it's probably not doing you any good, except that it allows you to run ads. But it's not the kind of thing that people generally like or go back to. People always say mine is great, and people always tell me it's a wonderful page. Yeah, okay. But I'm just saying generally not. And the reason people generally do not go to real estate agents' business pages is because there's nothing there they really care about. Right, but what Holly did is, here's a drop off for the mail ballots, you know, here's, just listed. So she does have a listing, right? And you can see less comments, less likes, less shares. Back to an election thing, here's movie theaters, here's Halloween wellness. You get the idea. Here's a updated guide about what's open, Silicon Valley. You get the point, right? Now we could go through, you could do everything I've talked about, everything that's on the list that I went through quickly. If you Google searched, you would find lots of explanations of how to do it. But this is an example of one of the best realtor community pages in our area. I've seen some in other areas that are even bigger, but I don't know of anybody in our area that has a community page that has as much business going on as Holly's. And yes, I've watched her do this over the years. Her volume has kept going up, right? And I just see it went to 80,000. Some of you guys must have just liked the page. All right, I've gone on too long. Next week, if you guys, are you interested in more about digital marketing? Maybe, right? I would imagine so. There's, you know, I will start to add in some of that, because right now this is mostly about making a plan, all right? And by the way, if you're in my coaching program and you would like to implement some of these things, I'm going to put together a group of people that want to farm, and I'll help write some of the marketing materials and things like that. You want it to be done professionally. If you're not in my coaching program, I just have to tell you my feelings are hurt. That's all I can say. Right? Maybe you ought to reach out to me. That's more than enough for me today. And this Friday, that's tomorrow. You've been sent this. A lender is going to be talking about how to negotiate the best rate. It would be a good thing if you wanted to attend it, so you could learn, you could invite your clients. I don't intend to steal them, but just thought I would mention that if you hadn't saw that email. Next week, we'll do something different, more on digital maybe. And if you are interested in listings to leads and you use my affiliate link, you get 2 weeks instead of 1 week of free use of the program to decide if you like it. And if you don't understand it, I'll help you if you're in my coaching program. That's all I got. Have a great day, you guys. Stay safe out there. Stay safe.